The sound of a $200 bottle of Dom Perignon exploding across the tiled floor didn't terrify me nearly as much as the wild, glassy fury blazing in my sister Cassie's eyes. She shrieked that my black wheelchair looked like a charred lump of coal, ruining her flawless engagement photo aesthetic. Then she shoved me straight into the champagne tower, where broken glass glittered under the lights as blood mingled with sparkling wine. I couldn't stand, couldn't even brace myself. But Cassie had made a grave miscalculation. She had no idea that the elegant woman who had crossed the lawn and knelt beside me, steadying my neck with the practiced precision of someone who'd done it 1,000 times, was Dr. Helena Kingsley Gregg's aunt. She was also the surgeon who had placed 8 titanium screws into my spine exactly 24 months earlier. And this time, Dr. Kingsley wasn't wielding a scalpel. She was wielding the law. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand how a sister made of the same blood could be this vicious, I have to bring you back an hour earlier. When the wrought iron gates of Magnolia Springs Botanical Garden first creaked open, they revealed a pastel fever dream pink roses, mint green hydrangeas, cream lilies bursting from every corner, gossamer ribbons wrapped around white columns. A string quartet played something baroque and pretentious near a marble fountain. This was Cassie's definition of perfection, and I was about to become the solitary black stain on her immaculate canvas. The dress code demanded spring pastel, baby pink, or mint green. The invitation had declared in looping, romantic calligraphy. No exceptions. I had followed the rules. A pale pink silk dress from a Nordstrom Rack clearance rack. A dress that managed to make me feel almost pretty, despite everything. The fabric draped smoothly over my atrophied legs, and I'd even curled my hair into soft waves that fell to my shoulders. But my ultralight carbon fiber wheelchair was matte black as specialized. $5,000 model I'd scraped and saved for. Every disability payment, every birthday check from distant relatives, every dollar I earned doing freelance editing had gone toward this chair. It weighed only 18 pounds and glided like a dream compared to the clunky hospital chair I'd been stuck with for 6 months after the crash. This chair was independence. It was movement. It was dignity. I didn't think Cassie would care about the color. I was wrong about many things. I rolled up the accessible ramp, thankfully. This overpriced venue actually had one hand scan the crowd for my sister. She shimmered near the champagne fountain, a vision in ivory lace that probably cost more than my annual medical supplies budget. Her blonde hair was twisted into a complicated updo, and her makeup looked editorial level perfect. She laughed at something Gregg, her fiancé, had said, her manicured hand curled around his arm. Gregg seemed like a good man from the few times we'd met, soft-spoken, warm, with an easy smile that didn't feel forced. I had wondered more than once what he saw in Cassie. Then again, Cassie had always excelled at showing people only what she wanted them to see. I approached with genuine hope, wheeling myself through clusters of guests who politely stepped aside. My heart thumped painfully. Despite everything, the 2 years of silence, the way she'd rewritten the accident to make herself look innocent, I still hoped. Still believed some version of the girl who used to braid my hair before dance recitals still existed. "Cassie!" I called, forcing cheer into my voice. She turned, and for a split second, something flickered in her expression. Irritation? Disgust? It disappeared so quickly I questioned whether I'd imagined it. "Matilda," she said, smiling with only her mouth. "You made it." The way she said it, too, made it like she'd expected me to fail, or wished I had. I swallowed the sting and extended a small gift box, wrapped in vintage rose-pattern paper. Inside was a pair of vintage pearl earrings I'd hunted for through antique shops and estate sales for weeks. Years ago, before the Jeep crash, before I could no longer rise onto Poyent and complete 32 fouettes, Cassie had told me she loved vintage pearls. They reminded her of Grandma's jewelry, the pearls from her wedding photos, the ones lost after she died. To buy these earrings, I'd had to dip into my emergency medication fund, the savings I kept for when insurance inevitably refused coverage again. But I wanted Cassie to have something meaningful, something that said, "I still love you, even if you don't love me back." I waited stupidly for a smile, or even a nod. Cassie accepted the box between 2 fingers, like it might stain her. She opened it, glanced at the pearls, and her lip twitched with disdain. "Secondhand?" she said, diagnosing the words like a flaw. "It looks old." She dropped the box onto a cocktail table without a second glance and immediately returned her attention to her phone. Her thumb scrolled, probably checking engagement announcement likes on Instagram. My chest tightened, a sharp, crushing ache, but I held back tears like I always had. My parents demanded peace at any cost. "Don't rock the boat, Matilda. She's stressed. Be the bigger person." She didn't mean it, except she always meant it. Then Cassie's gaze slid to my wheelchair, and her expression twisted from disinterest to outright disgust. "What is that?" she hissed, stepping closer. "My wheelchair," I answered slowly, bewildered by her venom. "Cassie, that pitch-black chair looks like the Grim Reaper in the Garden of Eden," she whispered, leaning close. Her breath reeked of champagne and cruelty. "You did this to sabotage my photos, didn't you? You couldn't just let me have one perfect day." "Cassie, this is my chair. I can't." But she was already storming off, heels clacking furiously against stone. I watched her head toward a service station stacked with linens. She grabbed a spare white tablecloth, snapping it open like a bullfighter's cape. She marched back, fabric billowing, face carved in anger. "Cover this eyesore right now," she ordered. Before I could speak, she tried to drape the cloth over my legs over me, as if I were furniture that clashed with her aesthetic. Something shameful she needed to conceal. For the first time in 2 years, 2 years of accepting blame for the accident she caused while texting her ex at the wheel, 2 years of enduring her coldness and her lies I pushed back. I grabbed the tablecloth and shoved it away. "No." A tiny word. An enormous explosion. Cassie's face darkened, red blotches climbing her neck. She yanked the tablecloth back and stomped off, muttering, "Ungrateful bitch," under her breath. For the next hour, I watched her work the party like a politician, her smile dialed to maximum charm. I saw her whisper to guests, saw their eyes flick toward me with pity or doubt. I knew exactly what she was doing. She'd always been good at controlling the narrative. Later, I'd find out the stories she'd told, that I had Munchausen, that I loved sitting in the wheelchair for attention, that I was exaggerating my injuries, that the crash the one she caused wasn't even that bad, that I was jealous of her happiness. She took my trauma and weaponized it. And the worst part? Some people believed her. The engagement party swirled around me like I was a boulder in a stream, guests drifting past, pretending not to stare. I parked near the rose garden, away from the celebration, and watched Cassie flutter through the crowd like a pastel butterfly. Greg noticed me once and started to approach, but Cassie intercepted him, looping her arm through his and steering him toward an older couple. I wondered if he knew the real story, if she'd ever told him the truth. About an hour into the party, a photographer arrived, some hipster guy with a man bun and pricey equipment. He set up near the main stage, decorated with what looked like $1,000 worth of peonies. "Family photos," Cassie announced, her voice slicing clean through the quartet's music. Everyone gathered round. I stayed exactly where I was. Maybe if I kept still enough, quiet enough, she'd pretend I wasn't part of this family lineup. But of course, no such luck. Cassie's eyes locked onto me from across the lawn. She motioned sharply, the smile on her face stiff and brittle. I wheeled myself forward slowly, bracing for whatever new humiliation she had prepared. The rest of the family was already forming their perfect tableau, ma'am, and Dad looking uncomfortable in clothes. Greg's parents looking wealthy and mildly bewildered. Aunts, uncles, cousins shifting into position. And there at the far left of the row sat a ridiculous pink-ribboned banquet chair, the kind with straight edges and no support. The kind made for posture and balance, the kind absolutely impossible for me to sit in. The kind that could drop me like a sack of stones. Matilda Cassie cooed, her public-facing voice slathered in sweetness. "Move your wheelchair away and sit in that chair. I want the photo to look coordinated." Everyone stared. The photographer already had his camera raised. Mom was making her familiar "don't you dare start something" expression. Dad stared at the grass like it had answers. "Cassie, I said quietly, fighting to keep my voice steady. You know I have a T10 spinal injury. I don't have the stability to sit in a chair like that. I'll fall. I'd explained this 1,000 times in the past 2 years. A T10 complete spinal cord injury means no feeling or movement from the belly button down. No abdominal muscles to hold myself upright. No ability to stop myself if I start tipping. Sitting in a standard chair was like asking someone to balance on a tightrope without a pole. Maybe doable for a few seconds before gravity wins? Cassie's smile never shifted, but something venomous flickered behind her eyes. You're always good at ruining things, she said through her sugary tone, the words edged like razor wire. Then she leaned closer and whispered, You're jealous because I'm getting married and you're a cripple, right? The word struck me like a punch. Not because I'd never heard it from strangers, from drunk idiots, from kids, but never from her. Never from someone who once claimed to love me. Stand up, you fake, she hissed. Then she grabbed me. It happened so fast I didn't even have time to brace. Cassie shoved both hands under my left arm and yanked, hard pulling me up and forward with a force I didn't know she had. The movement was sharp, violent, jerking me off balance immediately. My hands reached instinctively for the armrests, but they weren't there. The whole world tilted sickeningly. In her anger, Cassie stepped on the hem of her own gown. I watched her stumble slightly, her arms flailing to catch herself. Her grip on me slipped and then vanished as she lurched backward, saving herself. She regained her balance effortlessly because she had muscles that worked, a body that obeyed her. I did not. My lower body hung useless, dead weight, making me topple forward with unstoppable momentum. I had no legs to break the fall, no core strength to counter it. I was going down, and nothing on earth could stop it. The champagne tower loomed directly in front of me on an extravagant pyramid of crystal glasses. 7 tiers high, each one filled with bubbling gold liquid. Probably cost more than my rent. Definitely worth more to Cassie than I was. My shoulder and chest collided with it, and the entire structure collapsed. The noise was catastrophic, a violent waterfall of shattering glass, like 1,000 wind chimes being detonated. Shards flew in every direction. I felt tiny blades slice across my hands as I tried instinctively to catch myself. Felt the sting along my cheeks, my arms, my neck. Pain flared everywhere. My head smacked the tile floor, a jolt so hard my vision went hazy. The $200 Dom Perignon bottle from the top of the display struck my shoulder before rolling away. Blood spread across the polished tiles, mixing with champagne into a sickly pink puddle. My dress clung to me, soaked in wine and blood, indistinguishable from one another. My hands were a mess of cuts and embedded glass, looking like they'd been pushed through a shredder. The garden fell completely silent. No quartet, no chatter. Just the soft drip of champagne falling from destroyed glass and my own uneven, terrified breaths. I lay there, unable to move, afraid to try. My neck pulsed with pain, my skull rang. And above me, Cassie screeched, high and hysterical, "Oh my God, my $5,000 dress, you ruined my party." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Somebody help her. Stand up now." I couldn't see her from my angle. I could only see chair legs. Shocked expressions, but I heard her perfectly. Heard how she cared only about herself, her event, her outfit. Someone nearby gasped. A few guests stepped forward to help, but a commanding voice cut through everything. "Don't touch her. Nobody moves." A woman dropped a Gucci handbag onto the grass and pushed past a trembling waiter. She knelt beside me in the puddle of blood and champagne, not caring at all about her immaculate cream pantsuit. Her hands were gentle, but decisive as she placed them on either side of my head, stabilizing my neck with expert precision. "Listen carefully," she said, her voice calm and authoritative. "Don't move. Don't turn your head. I'm holding you still until paramedics arrive." I knew that voice instantly. Dr. Helena Kingsley, Greg's aunt, chief of neurosurgery at Mount Sinai, the same woman who saved my life 2 years ago. "Doctor," she snapped, looking up at Greg. "Call 911. Report a spinal injury and assault. Tell them we need police and an ambulance immediately. Now, assault." Cassie shrieked. "What are you talking about?" "She fell. It was an accident." But Dr. Kingsley didn't even glance at her. She looked at merely looked and I saw a recognition spark. And behind it, a fury she kept expertly contained, but not hidden. She sensed it the instant she saw me hit the ground. "Matilda Wells," she murmured, gently, like the words were meant only for me. "I know who you are. I'm here. I've got you. You're safe." And in spite of the agony, the blood, the chaos, something in me cracked open. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't alone. The next few minutes felt suspended. Sealed inside a strange, drifting bubble, time behaved differently when your body couldn't move, when steady. Capable hands kept your spine perfectly still because they knew exactly how easily it could break. I heard everything, every whispered shock, every gasp, every camera phone clicking, but none of it felt connected to me. I couldn't turn my head, couldn't lift a hand. All I could do was stare at the flawless blue sky framed by delicate branches while Dr. Kingsley held my head in place. "You're doing so well, Matilda," she murmured. "Keep breathing, slow, steady. That's perfect." Somewhere to my right, Cassie was unraveling. "Aunt Helena, you're being dramatic," she snapped, her voice cracking with that specific panic only a narcissist gets when the narrative slips out of their control. "She's faking. She can walk. She's doing this to ruin my day." Dr. Kingsley's hands stayed anchored, but her voice turned glacial. "Miss Wells," she called out, loud enough for all 50 guests to hear. "I am the surgeon who placed 8 pedicle screws into your sister's T10 and T11 vertebrae 24 months ago at Mount Sinai. Know the architecture of her broken spine better than she knows her own body." A ripple of breath moved through the crowd. I couldn't see their faces, but I could imagine the dawning recognition, the slow fitting of pieces. "Would you like," Dr. Kingsley continued, "to debate spinal medicine with the chief of neurosurgery?" Silence. Beautiful, devastating silence. Her authority crushed every lie Cassie had been whispering all afternoon about Munchausen, about attention-seeking, about me faking everything. Her whole tower of rumors collapsed as quickly and catastrophically as the champagne display. From the ground, I could finally see the guests with clarity. An elderly woman covered her mouth, eyes watering. A younger couple stood motionless, the man bracing his partner. And at the far edge of my vision, Greg. His face was sheet white. Frozen in shock, Cassie stood there too, her pristine hairstyle slipping. Her $5,000 gown splattered with champagne, and I noted with a grim sort of satisfaction streaked with my blood. Whispers moved across the garden like a breeze. "Did you see what she did? She yanked her right out of the wheelchair. That poor girl. Will she be okay? Wasn't the sister texting during the crash? Is that true? Did she really cause it?" As for mealing in a mess of pain, glass embedded in my skin, blood drying on my cheek, I thought, well, I'm still alive, so I guess it can, in fact, get worse. It was morbidly funny. Surviving a Jeep crash that destroyed my ballet career, killed my future plans, and left me with 8 screws in my spine and no feeling below my waist had given me a strange resilience. I'd already lived through my worst nightmare. Everything after that was just noise. But this exposure of Cassie, this public unmasking, felt dangerously close to justice. Sirens cut through the garden. Within minutes, paramedics encircled me, their hands practiced, precise. They worked seamlessly with Dr. Kingsley, who rattled off my history without pausing. T10 complete, stabilizing hardware in place, new trauma to the head and cervical spine, multiple lacerations, probable concussion, collar, backboard. Call County General, tell them Dr. Helena Kingsley is accompanying the patient. I want imaging ready. They didn't question her. No one questioned a neurosurgeon. A brace wrapped around my neck. They rolled me onto a backboard, strapped me in. Pain flared everywhere, but I stayed still. I'd handled worse. I'd survived worse as they lifted me. The scene unfolded, fully the destroyed champagne tower, the blood-stained patio, shards of crystal glittering like diamonds under the afternoon sun. Dozens of guests stared at me with horror, pity, and morbid curiosity. This was supposed to be Cassie's flawless day. Instead, it was her unraveling. Two officers stepped forward. One, a woman with a stern bun, opened a notepad. "Ma'am, we need to ask you about the incident." Cassie's face twisted with desperation. "It was an accident. I was helping her sit for a photo. She's my sister. I would never—" I saw everything. The voice belonged to an older man in a gray suit, one of Greg's colleagues. He stepped forward, jaw set. I stood less than 2 meters away. "I'm Lucas Chambers." I clearly saw her. He nodded toward Cassie. Grab her sister with both hands and yank with intention. That was not a slip. That was deliberate. That was assault. The perfect witness. Unbiased. Respected. No reason to lie. Every reason to avoid involvement. Yet still speaking, the officer's demeanor hardened. "Ma'am, based on the witness testimony and the victim's injuries, you need to come with us regarding an assault charge." Cassie shrieked. "No, you can't. It's my engagement party." She swung at the officer's hand, hysteria winning over sense. "Greg, stop them." "Ma'am," the officer barked, "stop resisting." Cassie spun, tried to bolt, and the officers moved instantly. Her arms were caught, twisted behind her. Handcuffs clicked shut. She broke messy, heaving sobs, mascara running down her ruined pastel dress. The crowd stepped away from her like she was contagious. But the most important part, the part that shook me, was Greg. He didn't defend her. Didn't argue. Didn't even look at her. His silence was the first real fracture in her invincibility. For 2 years, Cassie had been shielded by my parents' demand for peace, their refusal to acknowledge the truth, their endless protection of their golden child. But this was public. Witnessed. Recorded. Real as the paramedics slid me into the ambulance. I caught one last look at the garden now, smeared with blood and glass, guests whispering, my parents pale, and Cassie being guided into a police car. Dr. Kingsley climbed in beside me, her cream suit speckled with my blood. "I'm coming with you," she said firmly. "First we take care of you. Then we make sure justice happens." The doors shut. Sirens wailed. I exhaled slowly. She was finally not untouchable. Someone had recorded the whole scene on their phone. And even though the video was shaky and cut off right before I crashed into the Champagne Tower, it clearly showed Cassie grabbing me and yanking. The news channels blurred my face, but not hers. Her meltdown, her arrest, her shredded dress every second preserved in high definition and shared thousands of times. The story had everything: money, family chaos, a disabled victim, and a villain in couture. The internet was having a frenzy. I should have felt vindicated, triumphant, something, but mostly. I just felt exhausted. The hospital room door eased open, and I expected a nurse. Instead, Greg stepped in looking like he hadn't slept in days. His suit was rumpled, his hair unstyled, and the haunted look in his eyes belonged to someone whose entire worldview had just collapsed. "Matilda?" he said, voice rough. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." I believed him. Greg had many flaws, but lying convincingly wasn't one of them. If he'd known the truth about Cassie, about the accident, about anything, it would have been written across his face every time he saw me. "She told me you were drunk," he went on, dragging a chair over, "that you crashed the car going too fast, that you barely lived. She said she tried to stop you, but you ignored her." His breath stuttered. "She said you blamed her because you couldn't handle being responsible." The edited history. The polished lie. I'd heard it so many times from my parents I sometimes doubted my own memory. "I wasn't drunk," I whispered. "I don't drink. Ballet dancers don't." "I know that now," Greg said softly. "I know a lot now." The door opened again, and this time it was Dr. Kingsley, carrying a manila folder. She had swapped her ruined pantsuit for clean clothes, but she still looked ready to go to war. "Greg," she said, nodding at him. "Good. You're here. Matilda. I have something for both of you." She opened the folder and spread out several pages. Medical files. My surgical records. From 24 months ago, on that night, Dr. Kingsley said, her tone brisk and professional. I performed emergency spinal fusion on Matilda Wells. She arrived by ambulance after a single vehicle crash. The Jeep had collided with a tree at roughly 40 miles per hour. She passed one sheet to Greg. This is the toxicology report. Matilda's blood alcohol concentration. Greg's eyes widened. 0. Completely sober. The police report states the driver, Cassandra Wells, was texting while driving. She lost control on a curve. Dr. Kingsley's voice was cold steel. Matilda was the passenger. She never touched the wheel. Wait, Greg said. Cassie was driving? Cassie was driving, I confirmed. She was texting her ex, the one before you. They were fighting about whether they were broken up or just taking space. She kept staring at her phone. I told her to stop, to pull over, but she said she was fine. The memory replayed perfectly. The blue glow of her screen. The furious tapping of her thumb, my quiet Cass. Watch the road, and then the awful lurch as the wheels slipped off the asphalt. The tree rushing closer, the impact, the pain, the sirens, my entire future shattering in an instant. Why didn't you tell anyone? Greg breathed. I tried, I said. Right after surgery, I told my parents exactly what happened. My throat tightened. They said it would destroy Cassie's life if people knew she caused it. They said insurance would come after her. She might face charges, that I needed to protect my sister. I swallowed hard. They convinced me to say I'd been driving. Jesus, Greg muttered. My parents have always shielded Cassie. I continued. When we were little, it was small things she'd break something and blame me, and they'd take her word. As we got older, it escalated. She'd steal from my wallet, lie to my friends, sabotage dance auditions by hiding my shoes or giving me the wrong time, but they always excused it. She was stressed. She didn't mean it. I was too sensitive. Dr. Kingsley snapped the folder shut. What Cassie did at that party was assault. What your parents did 2 years ago? Coercion and insurance fraud. The statute of limitations has not expired. Greg looked physically ill. I almost married her. He buried his face in his hands. How did I not see it? Narcissists are gifted performers, Dr. Kingsley said gently. They show you whatever you want until they don't. Silence settled over the room, thick and heavy. I watched Greg sift through every moment with Cassie, wondering what had been real, wondering how deep the lies went. Then the door burst open. No knock, no hesitation. My parents swept in like a tidal wave. Loud, frantic, performative Matilda. Mom grabbed my hand too hard. Oh, thank God you're all right. Dad stood at the foot of the bed, face arranged into solemn concern. We were terrified. We came immediately. Hadn't called yesterday. They hadn't visited. But now that Cassie needed something, here they were. We need a favor, Mom said, eyes red around the edges but dry. No real tears, just the illusion of remorse. It's important, she added. Here it comes. Tilda dropped the charges, Dad said. Call the police and say you slipped. Say your sister only tried to steady you. If you retract your statement, they'll release her. There it was, the demand wrapped in sugar. Mom squeezed my hand again, nails digging in. She's your sister, Matilda. Family protects family. You know, she didn't mean to hurt you. She was upset, stressed, and you know how you can be. How I can be, I echoed. You know what I mean? She said quickly. Difficult, stubborn. You insisted on bringing that black wheelchair when she asked everyone to keep things light and pretty. The wheelchair I require to move. I said, well, yes, but you could have at least tried to match the color scheme. Maybe added some
ribbons on it, maybe some decoration. And then to refuse to sit in the chair for the photo when all she was trying to do was include me. I yanked my hand from Mom's grip. She attacked me. There's video. Witnesses, too. Witnesses can be wrong, Dad said quickly. It all happened so fast. People see what they want. I let the mass of defeat slip, just a little. My face crumbled, eyes tired, shoulders slumping. Mom, Dad, I said, my voice then worn. This isn't about me anymore. The police have the footage, the witnesses, the medical examiner's report. This is a criminal case between the state and Cassie. I am not the judge. I don't control what comes next. Technically true. Once the state presses assault charges, the victim can't just erase them. My parents didn't know the law that well. They thought everything could be fixed with the right words, the right nudges, the right manipulation. They exchanged a glance, wheels turning. They thought I was powerless. That the problem was the law, not me. They thought they'd found a loophole. We understand, Mom said, patting my arm with false sympathy. You're exhausted. You've been through so much. We'll let you rest. And just like that, they left no questions about me, no apology for Cassie, no acknowledgement that their golden child had publicly assaulted her sister. Greg, who had stayed silent the whole time, stared at the closed door. Are they serious? They want you to lie for her? They always do, I said flatly. Dr. Kingsley, who had watched quietly, now moved to the window and pulled out her phone. Richard? Helena Kingsley, I need you to handle something. There's a witness to that assault at the engagement party. Yes, that one. Make sure he knows his rights. Someone might try to pressure him to change his statement. She hung up, looking at us. That's my attorney, Richard. He'll make sure the witness knows what counts as tampering and how to report it. Do you think they'll try? Greg asked. They will, I said. They're desperate. Cassie's in serious trouble. How serious? Dr. Kingsley tapped her phone. Assault and battery causing bodily harm to a disabled person. That's an aggravating factor. With video, witnesses, and documented injuries, the prosecutor expects a 10-year sentence. Greg went pale. 10 years. She pushed a paraplegic woman into a tower of glass. Dr. Kingsley said coldly. She could have killed her, severed her spinal cord entirely. 10 years is appropriate. Silence pressed down. I closed my eyes. Exhaustion softened the edges of everything. Rest, Dr. Kingsley said gently. I'll make sure no one bothers you tonight. For the first time in 2 years, sleep came without nightmares. The next morning, hushed voices carried outside my door. Dad's sharp tone, followed by a calmer voice I couldn't place. Within minutes, the arguing faded. Greg appeared at the doorway, grim. Your parents were here. The security guard sent them away. Only approved visitors can come in, he added. What do they want? To make me do something unconscionable, he said, sitting heavily. They want me to convince the witness, Lucas Chambers, my business partner, to change his story. Somehow, they knew about our connection. They asked you to suggest he'd been mistaken? That maybe he shouldn't be sure. I already knew the answer. I told them to get the hell out of my sight. Greg said, do they understand what they're asking? That's witness tampering, a federal felony. I could lose everything. His horror mirrored my own. I didn't know your family could be this rotten, he said. Not all of them. I whispered. Just most. Greg started pacing. I've already warned Lucas someone might contact him. He's furious, considering harassment charges. They'll try, I said. They always do. But this time, they're trapped. Too much evidence. Too many witnesses. Their usual tricks won't work. They've set themselves up for failure. Greg left around noon, promising real food later, because hospital food is criminal. Dr. Kingsley checked my stitches, gave the official verdict. You look like you lost a fight with a blender, but you won't die. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, contemplating the strange turns life takes, when my phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Wells? Jennifer Hart, Hartwell and Associates. I'm assigned to your case. My case. Cassie Wells' assault case. I wanted to update you. What developments? Her defense attorney reached out. They want to negotiate a plea. My heart raced. A plea? They're worried about the strength of the prosecution. Video, witnesses, aggravating factors. She could face serious prison time. 10 years, maybe more, given premeditation and public scrutiny. A decade of Cassie's life. She'd be 41 when released. I should feel vindicated. I felt conflicted. What's the offer? If you submit a victim impact statement asking for leniency, say you believe she can reform, they'll plead guilty to aggravated assault instead of assault with intent to cause serious harm. Likely 2 years. Maybe less with good behavior. 2 years instead of 10. There's a catch, Ms. Hart continued. Full restitution. Medical bills, pain, suffering, punitive damages. Total, $420,000. I nearly dropped the phone. $420,000. My hospitalization alone is almost $60,000. With therapy, lost wages, emotional distress, it's reasonable. Some lawyers would ask for double. Your parents don't have it. Their problem, not yours. They pay, we submit. They don't. She faces a full 10. Payment must clear 7 days from now. Impossible. Comfortable, not lavish. Retirement savings, sailboat home equity. But $420,000 in a week? I asked finally. 2 years wouldn't ruin her. 10 would. And the money could change my life. Equipment, therapy, an accessible home. Independence. Yes, I said. If they pay, I submit. Ms. Hart promised to notify them. Clock is ticking. That evening, my parent arrived, haggard. $420,000. Dad said. That's a demand. I said neutrally. We don't have that. Mom pleaded. You can liquidate your retirement accounts. Sell the sailboat to a wholesaler. Hard money loans for the rest. I said. Silence. That's everything we worked for. Dad whispered. And my spine is broken, I said. My career, my life, gone. Cassie texting while driving, you making me lie. You protected her. You've always enabled her. Now you choose your savings or your daughter's freedom. Dad's face burned red. You destroy your family? I'm not destroying. Cassie destroyed it when she hurled me into that glass tower. I just refuse to lie anymore. Pay, I sign, she gets 2 years. Everyone else walks. Except us, I said. Mom cried real tears this time. How can you be so cruel? I learned from the best, I said. They left without another word. The week crawled by. Hospital stay extended. Greg visited daily. Food, company. Official break-off of engagement. Dr. Kingsley checked in, updated me. Cassie out on bail, breakdowns. Blaming everyone but herself. Day 6, lawyer called. They're doing it. Your father liquidated accounts. Sold the sailboat for fire sale cash. Took on high-interest debt. Barely makes it. Wire cleared at 4:47 p.m. I exhaled. Draft victim impact statement tonight. Sign tomorrow. Plea hearing Friday. Ms. Hart said, You're giving her a chance to make things right. More than most. I thought of the cost. $420,000. Retirement gone, sailboat gone, debt accrued. All for Cassie. They never helped me. Never for my wheelchair, my medical bills. Only demand that I be smaller, quieter, convenient. Worth trying. No promises. But the research held hope. There was no sudden, movie-style miracle where I stood and walked unassisted. Recovery doesn't happen that way, no matter what Hallmark or Hollywood would have you believe. But 3 weeks ago, during one of my focused visualization exercises, something shifted. My right big toe twitched. Just a tiny movement, barely noticeable, maybe a millimeter, but it was real. A spark of electricity ran down my calf, tracing neural pathways that had been silent and dark for 42 excruciating months. The first sensation below my T10 injury since the Jeep rolled. I stared at my foot, convinced it was a trick of my mind. Then it moved again, and again. Each time, that minuscule twitch whispered, reconnection, my brain reaching back to my body, reminding it what it could still do. Matilda, did you see that? Mari, the woman in the beach chair beside me, had been watching my exercises yesterday. The moment my toe moved, she leapt up and grabbed my shoulders. She squeezed so hard I could barely breathe, crying louder than I was. Mari, my found family. I'd met her at the Zurich Research Institute. She volunteered there, guiding patients through the foreign medical system, translating dense German medical jargon into plain English, offering the kind of compassion that restores faith in humanity. She'd cared for a paralyzed sister for 10 years before her sister passed. When she met me, Mari said I reminded her of her sibling. Same stubborn determination, same dark humor in the face of limitation, same refusal to be defined by circumstance. She became the sister I'd needed all my life, the one Cassie never could be. My phone vibrates in the bag dangling from my wheelchair. I almost ignore it, good habits, learned over the years, but something nudges me to check. An email from Mom. No subject, but an attachment. A photo of a handwritten letter. My stomach tightens as I open it. Cassie's handwriting. Still that perfect Catholic school cursive. Even after 2 years in prison. She was released early last week for good behavior. Mom's note says Cassie refused to return home. Instead, she found a small Midwestern town, rented a tiny apartment above a hardware store, got a job at a bakery. The letter itself is brief. Matilda, I'm sorry for taking your legs and your dreams. I don't expect forgiveness. Prison showed me how terrible I was. I'm starting from zero, trying to be decent. Live well, Matilda. I read it once, twice, 3 times. My chest feels light, not because the words matter, because apologies from Cassie were always prettiest when they meant least, but because I realized something sitting here, sun on my face, Mari humming beside me. I don't care anymore. No resentment. No imagined conversations. No rage to keep me awake. No obligation to rebuild a bond that was never real. Cassie can learn to be decent. Good for her. Without me, I turn off my phone, drop it into my bag. The past stays where it belongs. Mari, I say, grinning, ice cream, my treat. She laughs, full-bodied and joyous, the kind that makes strangers smile. She stands, moves behind my wheelchair. Let's go, little sister. She pushes me along the coastal path. Our laughter mingles with the waves. Salt on the breeze, freedom in the air. This is my real family. This is my life. And damn, it feels amazing.